All right, welcome back, everybody. This is a tutorial on Video 01, which is the Me in a Minute project. Take a look at the different things that we're going to learn. The first thing you're going to learn is you're going to learn how to create a project in Premiere Pro. You're going to learn how to import files and preview clips into Premiere Pro. Then you're going to use the timeline. You're going to learn how to put clips in a specific order and also how to trim clips down so they only take a certain amount of time. You're going to learn how to change audio files, specifically how to unlink audio files and video files so that way you can just play some music and not have to watch the video. And lastly, we're going to learn how to export our file into the H.264 codec so you can get it graded. All right, let's go through all this stuff. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a project in Premiere Pro. The Me in a Minute project is basically this. It's a 60-second video, approximately a 60-second video, that explains who you are and what you're interested in this moment in time. You're going to create a video that's between 55 seconds and 1 minute and 5 seconds long. You're going to use at least 15 different images. We're going to have at least one screencast video that we're going to put in there. Learning how to screencast will be on a different video, but once you have that video recorded, we're going to show you how you can put it into your Premiere Pro project. And lastly, we're going to show how you can create some background music or have an audio track that plays in the background. After we're done with that, we'll export it as a MP4 video, and we're going to turn that in. Very important, we're not going to turn in a project file. The project file does not include any video, so we're going to make sure that we export our video before we get done with everything. All right, so let's hop into it. I'm opening up Premiere Pro. If this is your first time opening Premiere Pro, the way that we do that is we go to the Start menu and type in PRE, and you'll see that Premiere Pro, PRE, comes up as the first entry here. So if you want to open it that way, you can click on that. You can also click on the Start menu, and if you want to pin this so that way it always shows up down here on your taskbar, you can right-click on that entry and then go Pin to Taskbar. And that will make it to where the icon will stay down here on the bottom of your taskbar for the rest of the year, so you can very easily get to Premiere Pro. Once you open Premiere Pro, it's going to look something like this. We're going to create a new project. It'll list all of the previous projects that you've created right here. What we're going to do is we're going to simply click on New Project. Once a new project opens up, it's going to look something like this. We're going to give our project a name. I'm going to call this Vid01. Me in a Minute. You can call it whatever you would like because this project file is actually is saved on your computer, and it basically, the project file tells your computer what order every clip goes in. It doesn't actually have any information other than how to edit and manipulate clips. It doesn't actually have a video. It just tells your computer which order to put those clips in. So right here is the location that it saves your project in. My suggestion is that you click Browse and you save this on your hard drive. So if we go somewhere on your hard drive, you can go to the video section. You can create a section in here that are just for projects. So I'm going to click on the Premiere area in my videos folder, and I'm going to save it in there. You can choose where you would like it, but this is where I'm going to put it, just in my videos folder under Premiere so I can find them easily. Now I'm going to close this. You don't really need to worry about all those other entries that show up. After you open that up, you're going to see Premiere Pro. It's going to look something like this. All right, so if this is your first time seeing Premiere Pro, don't worry, it might look kind of complicated, but we're going to walk through everything that you need to know to make this video happen. Over here on the very top, you're going to see these bars that have these different titles. We've got Learning, Assembly, Editing, Color, Effects, Audio, Graphics, Libraries, and Titles. Usually you start on the far left-hand side and you work your way to the right when it comes to creating videos. So we're going to start by clicking on Assembly up here. If I click on Assembly, you're going to see that my windows change a little bit. Every time you click on one of these different things, it's for a different process. So we're going to go into Assembly first because we're going to assemble all the clips that we want to use. Now, assembling clips you can do in a few different ways. We're going to talk about how we can create or import files and preview clips here. So right here we have this import media to start area. If I double click in here, it will allow me to pick what pictures or files I want to add to my Premiere project. If I go to my pictures area, I've already arranged all of my stuff that I'm going to use in this folder called Me in a Minute. I tried to be organized and put everything into this folder, so I'm just going to grab this entire folder. I'm going to click in here, I'm going to press Control A, and I'm going to press Open. And bam, what happens is it's going to take all those files and load them up into my Premiere Pro project. Now, if you decided to, for some reason, save your pictures in different areas, you decided, hey, I'm going to save some over here and some over there, you'll have to track down every one of them and put them in. However, this method of doing it, putting them all in the same folder and then just pressing Control A to be able to select all of them, is a very fast way to get everything dumped into one project quickly. This is just going to take a moment because it's pulling it from my OneDrive. Skip ahead a little bit if you'd like. Now, you can import images, you can import videos, you can import audio files. There's a lot of different types of things you can import into the project. You can also, if you want, you can open up the File Explorer. If you didn't want to double click in here and find the files, you can also just drag and drop files from here. So if I opened up the Me in a Minute folder over here, I could click and drag this into where it says Import Media to Start, and that would also work to load things into your project. Taking a moment here. Now, after it loads everything in, it should show a little image of each one of those icons over here, or each one of those files over here on the left. So there they are. And right here, it's just showing a list of them. You can choose between the list and the icon view down here on the bottom left. If I click on the icon view, I can actually see an icon where it shows me what each one looks like. If I click over here on the bottom left where it says list view, then I can actually choose to see them as file names instead. So if I click on list view, now I see them all as file names. If you name things a lot, then this will be very helpful. If you don't name things, probably the icon will be more helpful. Now you'll notice one other thing about the list view. All of my pictures are pink, as you see here, and all of my videos are blue. So it's an easy way for you to be able to see clearly what you're working with. If I go into the icon view, you'll notice my pictures don't do anything when I hover over them. They just are pictures. However, if there's a video file and I'm looking at them through this view, you'll see that when I hover over the video file, if I change where my cursor is over the top of the video file, it will actually show you the video. Let me find a video here so I can give you an example. Okay, here's a video right here. So if I hover my mouse over this video, I'm not clicking on it or anything, I'm just hovering over it, you can see that it shows me a preview of what's going to happen in that video. If I'm over on the left-hand side of the video thumbnail right here, that's the beginning of the video. And as I trail my mouse to the right side of that icon, you'll see that it shows me what the video preview would be in time. So this is towards the end of the video, this is towards the beginning or the middle of the video. This little blue bar right here basically will tell you what point in time you are at in that video. So this is really useful if you've got a bunch of video clips here and you're not sure which one is which. Maybe a lot of them start the same. You can just hover over right here and be able to find which ones you want. All right, that said, I want to just dump all of these picture files and movies and stuff into my video. To do that, we're going to start putting things into the timeline. So the timeline is right over here. You're going to see something that says timeline, and this is basically a representation of time and the images that, or the images and video that play over that time. So I'm going to click in here and press Control A to grab all of my different files here. And if I want to, I can deselect files by holding down Control on the keyboard and clicking on the ones that I don't want to include. I'm going to grab all my pictures and I'm going to leave out my videos for now. So I'm going to hold down Control and click on this one to deselect it. I don't want my video in there. And I'm also going to do the same for the audio that I'm going to use here, which I took here. So now I have just all my pictures selected. I'm just going to click and drag all of these pictures into my timeline, and when I release, this is what will happen. Bam. All my pictures are all in a line right here. Let's talk about the timeline in close here. If I double click on the top part of this timeline where the toolbar is, or where you would normally click and drag, it will actually make it full screen. This is a way that you can basically look at any window that's in Premiere. If you double click the top of it, it will make it full screen for you. So let's take a look at the timeline down here. Now the timeline works like this. We have three video tracks to begin with, and we have 3 audio tracks. For those of you who have done any work in Photoshop, video tracks are just like Photoshop layers. If you don't know what Photoshop layers are, don't worry, we'll talk about this a little bit later. But for right now, thank you very much. For right now, just worry about the fact that there's 3 layers of video. The one that's on the bottom right here, V1, this is the thing that is furthest away from the viewer, or it's the bottom of the stack. Think of this as you have 3 pieces of paper that are stacked on top of each other, and you can put a background on video 1, like maybe I'll have a forest scene. And then right here, video 2, maybe I'll have my main actor, like I'll have Bambi grazing in the woods or on some grass or something. And then video 3, I would have things that are closer to the viewer.
Hey, yeah, so I want to let you know about the work for your wall, about the TV and the whiteboard.
Yes.
It's already put in, it might take some time.
Okay.
Okay?
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Go.
All right, so important things to note. When I imported everything, it all fell on video track 1. That means that everything is on one line right here. This is called linear editing. It basically just means that this is going to play, and then this is going to play, and then this is going to play, and so on. If we look at our tracks here, we have 3 video tracks, and we have 3 audio tracks. The ones that say A, those are audio tracks, and they have basically waveforms of sound that play right here. Up here we have our video tracks, and those are the different visuals that you will see. Now, this brings us to the most important part of our timeline, the idea of time. Up here on the very top, we have a little marker that shows us what period in time we are in. And this blue little marker right here that has a line that trails down the bottom of it, this is our timeline. The timeline is very useful. If you click on the timeline and you drag to the right and the left, you change what point in time you are in the video. And it will actually show you right here what point in the position that timeline marker is. There's different words for the timeline marker. Oftentimes you'll see it called as a playhead. Sometimes you'll see it called a scrubber. Sometimes you'll hear it called just a timeline marker. So just so you know, those 3 terms are basically interchangeable. If I click on this and I drag it to the left or right, it will basically, anything that it's colliding with down below, this blue timeline, anything that's colliding with in the video lines or the audio lines is what is going to show up in the output of the computer screen. All right, so that said, right now we dragged all these things in here. These are each images, and now that we've put most of our things in there, I'm going to drag the other files that I have. I have a sound file that I want. I'm grabbing my music file. I'm going to drag this over. I'm going to put it over here on the side for now. You'll notice that it's a lot longer than the other clips, and you'll notice that it also has a audio component attached to it. This is because this is actually a video file versus all these being pictures. I'm going to grab my other file here, my other video. There we go. So now I have my music that I'm going to use, and I have the video that I'm going to use as well. I just put them over on the side so that way I can edit them easier. I have all my pictures here, which are pink. I have my 2 videos, one which is music and one which is my video file that I'm going to use. All right, I've assembled everything that I need. Now my assembly phase is done. Let's get to how we can trim this and edit it together. So I'm going to click on editing now, and I'm in the editing field. The editing field is going to be a little bit different from the other one. However, you're still going to see the media browser down here. So I still have access to all the things that that I want to drag left and right into. I can take stuff from my files. I can still import new files in the editing window. It's not like I have to be in assembly to do it. It's just much smaller, as you can see here. We have some other things that pop up. This window up here we'll talk about later. Right now, this is mainly what we want to talk about. This is the preview window right here. And when we are editing, now if I click on this top area where the timeline is, you'll see that when I change this timeline, or I click where this timeline is and I move that playhead, it's going to change what shows up here. As I drag to the left and right, oh, okay, these are all my different images. And you're going to notice the different images are different sizes. We're going to have to resize some of these to make it fit. Now, something that's very important to start with is that my video, you'll notice that some things are extremely zoomed in and some things are extremely zoomed out. That's because my pictures and stuff were different sizes, different resolutions. And the way that Premiere decides the size of your project is based off of the first picture that you drag into the timeline. So I don't want to have the computer automatically decide for me what size my video canvas is going to be. We're going to change that ourselves. We're going to go up to Sequence. We're going to go to Sequence Settings. And here you can change the resolution of what your final video size is going to be. This might sound like a lot of jargon until we've completed some of the video canvas stuff, but all you got to know is up here where it says editing mode, we're going to change it from custom. We're going to pick the AVHC 1080i anamorphic section right here. we're going to make a 1080 video. So that's all you have to know. You click on HD 1080, and then you're going to go down to the bottom of this section and select the OK button. You can't see it just because I'm screencasting. But when I do that, now the size of my screen is considerably bigger. All of my pictures should fit in that size now because the size of my screen is much larger. I can resize all of my images as I need to pretty easily. To resize an image, all you have to do is double click on it, and you're going to see these things appear on the sides of it. You can then click and drag to make these bigger or smaller. So I'm just going to try to go into each one of my pictures and resize them to make sure they look good on the video screen. To do that, I can zoom in here. On the timeline, you're going to see that there's a bar down here on the very bottom that you can click to drag left and right. If you click on the little circles on the side of that bar, you can then zoom in to a certain section. So I'm clicking on the little circle right here, and I'm dragging to the left to zoom in on my timeline, or I can drag to the right to zoom out. I'm going to zoom in just enough so I can see each one of these frames. So if I drag the timeline forward, you'll see here's my first picture. As I go forward in time, now I've got my second picture. I'm just going to double click on this. I'm going to resize it. So if I double click, or I'm sorry, you have to select the image first on your clip. Now if I double click it, I can change its size. I'm just going to make it bigger. And that's all we need. Then I'll go to my next image. And I'm sure you can guess what's going to happen. I'm just going to select each image and just make it the appropriate size. Something else you can do if you're resizing, if you hold your mouse a little bit farther away from the if you hold the mouse a little bit further away from the corner, you're going to see that your icon becomes this little rotating arrow right here. If you click and drag, you can actually rotate pictures this way as well. So that's how you can resize and rotate images that happen to be here. If you do something that you don't like, you can of course press Control-Z and it will undo what you last did. So that's how we can change all of our images. We simply click on the image here in our timeline. You double click on the image here. You can move where it is just by clicking and dragging. And you can also change its size by clicking and dragging the corner to make it bigger. There we go. So I won't waste your time going through all of my images and resizing them, but that's typically what you would do. You'd want to make sure that your images look good on the frame here. After you do that, you might want to change the order of some of your pictures, or you might want to change how long or short some of them are. So let's take a look at how we can do that in the timeline down here. There's a few different trimming techniques that we can use when it comes to using the timeline. If I click on one of these clips, I can move it up and down on different tracks. And what that means is if I have one video file that's playing on top of another, you'll see this effect. Both of them will play at the same time. And the one that is on top, or a higher number video track, in this case video 2 is on top of video 1, you're going to see this one, and this one that's on video track 1 is going to be below it, or it's going to be beneath it on the actual video screen. So right here, this is a picture of a clarinet. As I move it around, you can see that it is on top of this other picture of a DJ deck console. So what you can do is you can actually choose which one you want to be on top. If I put this video track on top of the other one, if I just drag it to where this one is on the bottom and this one is on top, you'll notice that now the DJ decks are on top of the other image. So this, you can think of this as stacking different images, the order in which they stack. But more than that, you can affect the amount of time that each picture takes up. If I wanted to cue this to music so that way the pictures would change every time a beat went off, I could do that by changing the amount of time that they last. And to do that, I'm going to zoom in on the timeline here just to show you the different ways you can do this. The simplest way to do it is to simply put your mouse over the edge of one of these tracks or one of these clips, and you'll notice that your cursor becomes a red arrow. If you click and drag with that red arrow, it will adjust the time that picture takes up. So I can make this picture only last for a very, very short time if I wanted it to just to flash for a moment. Or I could click on this and drag to make it last for a longer period of time. How long is up to you. It's all in the editing process of what you want to take up a certain amount of space. But this is one of the easier ways for you to be able to move stuff around. We're going to talk about some more advanced editing techniques later, specifically how to use the ripple delete function, which is really useful. But for now, I'm not expecting you to know that. You should be able to complete this project just by clicking and dragging them around. If you do want to know how to use ripple delete, just look for it. If you do a Google search on ripple delete, it is a very useful function. Basically, if I wanted to cut off, what ripple delete does is if I wanted to cut off this part of the clip, but I wanted to move everything else over, then I could do that. This is the problem with clicking and mousing around. If I click on this file and move it to the left, now I've got this space right here that's like a little bit of black space. And if I were to play my video, the way you play your video, by the way, is you click on the play button up here, or you press the space bar, and it will play from wherever your playhead is. So if I press my space bar now, you're going to see that my playhead begins to move. And over time, I have a little bit of blank space in between my pictures here now. Now, I don't necessarily want that. So what you can do is you can just extend your clips to be able to fill in that extra space, which sometimes is a little bit cumbersome because you have to be exact with your mouse. Or you can click on the empty space that you have in here. If I had, let's see, if I had this down here, I can click on this empty space that's in here and press delete, and it will take that empty space out. So that's another thing you can treat. Basically, you can treat empty space as a clip as well. Very useful. If you want to delete a clip, you can simply click on it and press the delete keyboard button, and then it will delete that clip. All right, so you'll notice that a window just popped up. Premiere does consistently autosave. It's very useful that way. However, it is a good idea still to consistently get in the habit of pressing Control S to save your progress as you go. Now let's talk about the last part of our tutorial here, which is audio files and video files. So let's say I got all of my my pictures here done. I would have to resize some of them. If a picture is really big like this, you'll notice that it's a gigantic picture. Oftentimes you can resize it by looking right here. This is your zoom level right here. So if I click on this, I can zoom out. If I click on 10, and then I can resize this to be able to fit my my canvas. If you have really big pictures, sometimes you have to click on the zoom function to be able to see everything. So this zooms in on your canvas. You can make it fit the screen, or you can make it zoom out, or you can make it zoom in. So there's various functions you have just for your canvas right here. I'm just going to move this and make it easier to see. There we go. All right, so let's say I have all my pictures done. Let's get to our video files. I'm going to zoom out on the timeline. And I want to grab these two files right here. Now this first file is a audio file mostly. I just want the music from it. So if I press play, you'll notice it actually plays the audio that's going to go through here. So I want to take this sound file, but I want to ditch the video file. I don't want the video part on there. You'll notice that the music video from this sound file isn't that great. It's just a bunch of messages that somebody put up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the there's two ways I could do this. I could delete the sound or the video to the sound file by unlinking it, or I could simply make it hidden. You'll notice over here in our timeline, on the left-hand side, you're going to see something that has a little eyeball next to the video links or next to the video tracks. This allows you to make an entire track invisible or not. So if I wanted to, I could make all the tracks that are on track 2 invisible. So if I move this over my pictures, oops, I don't want to completely go over my pictures here. I want my video track to sit on top of these audio files or these picture files. If I click on the eyeball, then it will make this track invisible so you won't see it. Now if I go back to the beginning of my timeline and I press play, you'll see that it plays the video files and it switches them. But now I have this music track down here that plays as these pictures get shown in order. Great. Now I just have this video file that I'm going to use. You can choose to put it in a interesting place if you want to. You could put it somewhere else on your video. I'm just going to show you how you can tack it on to the end. That's all I'm asking for, just so you know what a video looks like in Premiere. So now we go down here at the very end. When I get to the last picture here, when I press play, class. I have a video file that plays.
Today I'd like to test your mental coordination with a little binary exercise.
All right, so I've got a video file at the end of my project here. I've got all the different pictures that I want to use. I've got an awful lot of pictures, and you'll notice that my music only plays up to a certain point. Uh-oh, it's not going to be long enough. Also, look at how long my video is. Over here on the top left, it says this video is already at 1:45 at this point. If I go forward in time, man, this video is almost 4.5 minutes long. So I've got to cut this down a bit. What I'm going to need to do is, I'm going to need to go and zoom in, find these files right here, the ones that are pictures, and I might just have to shorten some of them. So I'm going to shorten some of them down. I can take the inner section here of just blank space, and I'm just going to delete that. As I make these shorter or smaller, I'm going to click on the empty space that's left within, and then just press delete to shorten it up. So I'm going to make each one of these files a little bit shorter. I'm going to try to make it to where everything can fit inside of the span of 1 minute. That is one of the graded parts of this project. So we're going to want to make sure that we can fit all the pictures into just 1 minute of playback. So after you get all those things shortened down and you fit everything into 1 minute, let's find out how we're going to actually export this video so we can get a grade on it. The last portion of creating a video in Premiere is we're going to save everything. So I'm going to go up to File and Save. I'm going to save my project. However, saving the project, it's very important for you to know the project file in Premiere just is a file that tells Premiere where all of these little clips are, in what order, and any special effects that you applied to them. It is not actually a video. Do not turn in a project folder. Do not turn in a project file because you'll get a 0 on your project. What you need to do is you need to create an actual video file. To do that, we click on File, we go down to Export, and we go to Media. You can also press Control M. Control M is a shortcut to get to this really quickly. Now, when you export your, or when you go to the export dialog box, it's going to look something like this. Your settings may be different when you see it for the first time. So I want to walk through the things that are important for you to know for this part. First thing, you can see how much of your video, how it's going to play down here. If you just scroll down on this scrubber down here, you can see what it's going to export. It's a good idea just to check and make sure at the beginning and the end are where you want them to be, what it's supposed to look like. All right, perfect. After you're done with that, you want to go up here to where it says Format. This is very important. It's probably going to start off as AVI. Now, AVI is a video format, but it makes extremely big files. Files that are so big that usually you can't turn them in Schoology. So if you try to create an AVI file and you submit it to me, there's a good chance that Schoology will say, nah, the file is too big, it's not going to go, it's not going to accept it. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this format from AVI to H.264, which is the MP4 codec. Many of you probably have heard of the MP4 codec. It's what a lot of videos online use. So we change this to H.264. The other thing we have to do, you have to click where it says output name right here. You're going to see a blue link or a blue name. When you click on that blue link, this is how you change what the video file is going to be called and where you're going to save it to. So I'm going to click on the videos folder here, and I'm going to save it in here. I'm going to say McDowell_me in a minute. It's helpful if you put your name on your video files, just so that way I can tell when you turn them in that it was your project. After you do that, you'll see that there's a few different buttons here. There's one to export video, there's one to import video, or export audio rather. Other things that you can do, you can actually export directly to a streaming service. If you click on Publish, you can go directly to Twitch or YouTube or whatever you want. I'm not going to expect that of you this time. Something that is helpful to do though, click on this little tick box that says Use Maximum Render Quality. And then once you press Export right here, it will save that video to the location that you put here for the output name, and you are all done. Congratulations. So what did we cover? We covered how to create a Premiere Pro project. We talked about importing clips. We talked about previewing clips. We talked about how to use the timeline, how to trim those clips, how to use audio files and video files inside that timeline, and lastly, how to export videos to the H.264 codec. I hope you have a lot of fun with this project, and I will hopefully talk to you again soon.